100 Rare Photos from 1970s. What life in America really looked like. Modern life can feel overwhelming at times, leaving us longing for simpler days. So, let's take a trip 50 years back to the vibrant 1970s. Whether you're curious about what life was like back then, or you're nostalgic for the era you grew up in, join me as we explore some unforgettable moments from this iconic decade. Washington, D.C., back in 1974, was a much more relaxed place to drive around compared to today's traffic-filled streets. You could cruise through the city without getting stuck in endless jams. Depending on when this photo was taken, the U.S. president was either Richard Nixon, still in office before his resignation over the Watergate scandal in August 1974, or Gerald Ford, who took over after Nixon stepped down. It's hard to imagine that this was once the most scandalous thing a president had ever done. Times have certainly changed. Tom Thumb was a grocery store icon in the 1970s, known for unbeatable prices and top-notch products. While it's still around and rooted in Texas, this ad is a nostalgic reminder of its heyday. The deli? Unforgettable. Always fresh and never left languishing under a heater. Just one bite from their offerings back then could transport you straight to grocery heaven. Entenmann's has been a New York favorite since 1935 and continues to delight donut lovers today. Back in the day, there were fewer hairnets and a bit more freedom in the kitchen, but the donuts were just as delicious. Maybe it was the relaxed atmosphere that made them taste even better. Here's a glimpse into the typical day at Seattle City Light in the 70s. Employees handling everything from typing bills to fielding calls, all while looking sharp. And that glass ashtray? It was a staple in offices back then. After dealing with irate customers over rising bills, a cigarette break was practically part of the job. Typing classes were a high school staple in the 70s, preparing students for careers that revolved around the trusty typewriter. Secretaries, journalists, and office workers mastered its clunky keys, building speed and precision. Little did they know, the computer revolution was just around the corner, making typewriters a relic of the past. Fortunately, today's keyboards aren't too different, just quieter and a bit more forgiving. It's wild to think how quickly technology reshapes our everyday tools. In 1974, a car with a convertible sunroof was the ultimate symbol of cool. Forget all the gadgets and tech we have now. All you needed was the wind in your hair and a smooth ride. This car wasn't just about style, though. It could fit 5 people, making it perfect for cruising with your whole crew. It's the kind of ride that captured the carefree spirit of the 70s, and honestly, it still stands as the epitome of cool today. Back in 1974, owning a fancy color TV was the ultimate luxury. At $1,650, a staggering $10,122 in today's dollars, these heavy box TVs were as pricey as a new car. Families treated TV time as a sacred ritual. You had to justify that jaw-dropping cost. Today, a massive 4K screen costs under $1,000, making top-tier tech more accessible than ever. Grocery shopping in the 1970s was a simpler, more community-focused affair. Shoppers navigated the aisles with their trusty carts, loading up on essentials without the distraction of apps or scanners. The absence of today's conveniences like self-checkout or curbside pickup meant more face-to-face interactions. Your cashier might have even remembered your name or favorite brand of cereal. And let's not forget the prices. A full cart, like the one in the photo, didn't leave your wallet gasping for air. Times Square today is a bustling hub of digital billboards and chaos that many avoid. But back in 1974, it had a different vibe. Sure, it was crowded, but it felt walkable and full of character. It was a spot for a casual outing, where you could catch a movie or visit a museum. And how about that Bruce Lee triple feature? Now that's worth the trip. A far cry from the commercial overload of today, Times Square back then had its own gritty charm. In 1974, Mary Wallace broke barriers as the first woman to drive a Chicago Transit Authority (CTA) bus. Her achievement was monumental, not just because she was a woman, but also a black woman, less than 2 decades after Rosa Parks' pivotal stand in the civil rights movement. Despite skepticism and stares, Wallace's skill and determination earned her respect and admiration. She kept Chicago moving for an incredible 33 years before her well-deserved retirement. Festivals back then weren't just events. They were experiences of pure camaraderie and unforgettable music. Legendary lineups like these captured the spirit of the times, all for just $15 a weekend, about $95 today. Now, festivals feel more like logistical nightmares, with overpriced tickets and endless lines. The thought of snagging a pass to something this monumental today for under $100? Impossible. Ticketmaster scalpers would turn it into a small fortune. The Golden Arches shone just as brightly 50 years ago, but McDonald's had something special back then: better value and bigger portions. Take the Big Mac. In 1974, it was 65 C-Baus, which is $4.15 in today's dollars. Compare that to the current average price of $5.69. Not only was it cheaper, but it lived up to its name. That burger could feed a family and still have leftovers. Now, it's just a shadow of its former self, a modest burger with an extra bun. Nostalgia never tasted so good. In the 1970s, avocado green wasn't just a color, it was a lifestyle. Green appliances, curtains, carpets, you name it, it was green. While it might seem overwhelming today, there's something oddly comforting about this living room. That floral couch looks perfect for curling up with a good book, if the shades of green don't steal all your attention first. A group of students from Brick High School in New Jersey caught during a big game with pom-poms that could practically double as pillows. Some students are also sporting Native American makeup, representing the team's former mascot, the Indians. Note: many schools have since updated their mascots to be more culturally sensitive. This scene from the 1970s looks like a Costco gas line on steroids. During the 1973 oil crisis, caused by a Middle Eastern oil embargo, these endless lines became a part of daily life. By 1974, the frustration lingered. Just ask the guy stuck without enough gas to mow his lawn. To manage demand, gas stations implemented the odd-even rule, where your license plate determined your fill-up days. In 1974, Newport Beach had that perfect balance of laid-back charm and local flavor. After a sunny day at the beach, you could grab a cool treat like Ken's frozen bananas with a refreshing Pepsi. The vibe was relaxed, with small businesses adding a sense of community. Unlike today's busy tourist spots, it felt like a place where locals and visitors alike could connect over a simple, sweet snack. What a nostalgic contrast to today's crowded, commercialized beach towns. The Reading Terminal Market in Philadelphia has always been a place where people shop till they drop. But it looks like waiting for your loved ones to finish their shopping was just as frustrating back in 1974 as it is today. The two folks in the front don't look thrilled about their wait. And those phone booths, remember those? They're lined up like a row of quiet conversations. But could you even hear anything over the sound of everyone else's chatter? The booths might have offered privacy, but not much in the way of quiet. Dunkin' Donuts, now simply known as Dunkin', had a solid presence back in the 1970s. Though it wasn't the giant it is today, the old logo with the words nestled in a donut-shaped circle had a creative charm that's missing from the current, more streamlined design. And oh, those fresh donuts. Back then, they were always fresh, unlike today when you might be lucky to get what you want, let alone something fresh. Back in 1974, the National Maximum Speed Law set a nationwide speed limit of 55 miles per hour, a response to the gas shortage caused by the oil crisis. While some states treated it as more of a suggestion than a rule, others profited from a surge in speeding tickets. Despite the gas issue improving, the law lingered on, as it was said to reduce traffic fatalities. However, in 1987, the limit was raised to 65 miles per hour, and by 1995, the law was repealed. Today, 70 miles per hour is the new suggestion in many places. Peggy Berry might not be a household name, but if you were lucky enough to be served by her, you knew you were in for top-notch service. The kind of diner where your cup was always full, the papers were handed to you with a smile, and honey was a regular part of the conversation. These diners still exist today, but their charm has faded, with many of them now seen as nostalgic relics. If you ever stumble upon one, make sure to grab a plate of hash browns or a burger. You won't be disappointed. The grit of the NYC subway in the 70s. American schoolgirls wore skirts and low-heeled shoes to school in the 1970s. A woman known as Disco Sally dances with her husband at Studio 54, 1978. Images of schoolgirls wearing short skirts like this were not uncommon on American school campuses during that time. Danny Trejo and his third wife, Joanne, in 1976. A school bus in the United States. Willem Dafoe in Point Judith, an epilogue, 1979, by the Wooster Group, New York City. Photo by Nancy Campbell. Carrying books to the classroom. Girl on a beach in Oahu, Hawaii, 1973. Photo by Nick DeWolf. Inside a university lecture hall in the United States. Robert De Niro on the set of Taxi Driver, 1976. A charming female student is conducting an experiment inside a chemistry laboratory. Margot Hemingway, photographed by David Hume Kennedy in Havana, Cuba, 1978. A blonde schoolgirl from the 1970s in the United States. A steward slices meat for passengers on SAS Scandinavian Airlines, 1969. The student lockers area in the United States. Madonna, photographed by her boyfriend Dan Gilroy on the bus in New York, 1979. The cafeteria area. A A young Steve Martin ironing a cat, 1970s. An anatomy class. Sharon Tate photographed N.Y. Jean Gutowski on their Christmas holiday in Italy, 25th December, 1968. The reading room in a university library. Happy, 1979. This is likely a music class. How to Survive a Disco Attack, 1977. A classroom using typewriters. Grace Jones, The Palace, Paris, 1978. A sewing classroom. George Harrison and Stevie Nicks, 1978. A school campus in the United States. Jonathan Frid crowns Christine Dominiecki, Miss American Vampire, 1970. American schoolgirls in neat outfits. Kate Bush, London, March, 1978. Overall, skirts were a popular attire for female students during that time. At Home with Harrison Ford, 1978. A conversation between a female student wearing a red skirt and another female student in bell-bottom blue jeans. Sigourney Weaver at the tail of the pup, La Cienega Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 1978. New York City, 1975. Two brothers at their joint wedding, 1970s. Dolly Parton performs in Detroit, Michigan, in September of 1977. Angelica Houston in Halston's Fall, 1972 collection. "14-year-old Melanie Griffith at home with her pet lion, Neil, 1971. Dolly Parton, 1970. Cher, 1970. Al Pacino, 1970s. Amy Irving, Carrie Fisher, and Terry Garr. New York City, 1977. Sizzling in the Kitchen. ABBA's Agnetha Feltskog, 1974. A woman photographed in 1973. Rumors, 1977. Gary Anderson, at age 23, designed the recycling logo for a contest, 1970. Elton John at home with his shoe collection. Photo by Terry O'Neill, 1975. Linda Carter pre-Wonder Woman in the 70s. Susan Sarandon in The Rocky Horror Picture Show, 1975. Harrison Ford in a kitchen in the late 70s. Conversation pits from the 1960s and 1970s. Helen Mirren, 1969. San Francisco's Lombard Street in 1975. That moment when you realize your parents were cooler. My Parents in Paris, 1972. Susan Sarandon, Cannes, 1978. Tim Curry, 1974, by Joe Gaffney. New York City, 1978. Photo by Helen Levitt. Women in Afghanistan during the 70s, before the Taliban. Heartbroken for all experiencing pain now. This photo captures the peaceful life of David Canklin at 19 years old in West Virginia. Canklin's father was a miner who tragically lost his life in a mining accident, yet Canklin still aspired to follow in his father's footsteps. Joan Jett, without her signature black eyeliner. This is an image of oil slicks surrounding the Statue of Liberty. Ruth Gordon Schnapp, California's first woman structural engineer, 1970s. The Atlas chemical plant releases smoke into the sky, disrupting the peaceful scenery of the Marshall region in Texas. A local farmer reported that the chemicals caused the death of several of his livestock. Coca-Cola ad, 1977. Mary Workman, a resident of Steubenville, Ohio, is holding a cup of contaminated water from her well. She filed a lawsuit against a coal company in Steubenville for polluting her drinking water source. Access the new vintage channel. Battery recycling plants in the U.S. have been releasing thick black smoke since the 1970s. Today, the U.S. requires battery recycling plants to avoid releasing polluting emissions into the environment. As a result, companies export batteries to be recycled in other countries. The George Washington Bridge in New York City is submerged in fog. The environmental pollution issue is now much larger than before. Staff members of the Environmental Protection Agency are working in a laboratory in Las Vegas. Waste collection activities on the Potomac and Anacostia rivers in 1973. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the Clean Air Action Program, which includes strict anti-pollution regulations for industries in the U.S., prevented 160,000 early deaths, 130,000 strokes, and millions of respiratory disease cases in 2010 alone. The Twin Towers in New York, seen from a massive landfill. A car left to rust at Jamaica Bay, New York, in 1973. Trash and old tires are scattered across the Baltimore Harbor. Today's EPA regulations prohibit dumping waste in coastal areas. The EPA has also worked for many years to clean up the Baltimore Harbor. Since 1972, the town of Louisville and the Ohio River have been facing the issue of dense smog. All kinds of waste are dumped in the suburbs of New York City. The EPA has also issued regulations to help the New York authorities tackle this waste issue. The pollution emitted by automobiles had severely threatened the environment in the U.S. before the Clean Air Action Program was implemented. This photo shows a waste incinerator on the Ohio River in 1972. The issue of smog pollution is not new to Los Angeles. This photo from 1972 proves it. Severe pollution in the industrial cities of the U.S., with the situation in Cleveland, Ohio, being particularly critical. Coal mining was the most significant source of pollution in the U.S. during the 1970s. However, President Donald Trump stated that the dying coal industry will make a comeback. 100 beautiful historical pictures. You must see. Sophia Loren's summer outfit at age 18. Anne Margaret shows off more than her acting chops. flight attendants posing on an empty airplane in the 1960s. Madonna relaxing in a NYC apartment, 1983. Jack Nicholson and Angelica Houston were a cool couple in the 1970s. Debbie Harry in Tokyo, 1978. Mick Jagger looking like a naughty little boy put in time out in this photo. Linda Carter showing off at the 1977 Emmy Awards. A young Gordon Lightfoot was interviewed by host Alex Trebek on CBC's Music Hop in 1963. Princess Elizabeth inspects a barrack guard as Sergeant faints during visit. Daughter of an Indian Maharaja poses with panther she shot. Bunny Wailer, Bob Marley, and Peter Tosh in 1964. Jim Morrison in the studio recording the L.A. Woman album, 1970. Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland, 1968. Hippie Dad and his daughter in Amsterdam, 1968. Arnold Schwarzenegger walking around Munich to promote his new gym, 1969. Bill Murray as Hunter S. Thompson in a scene from the film Where the Buffalo Roam, 1980. A German grenadier in Champagne, heavily armed. Afghanistan, mid-last century. Nation of Islam held anti-Trump rally in 1988 at Trump Tower. Love is Forever, Seine Embankment, Paris, 1944. A family during the Great Depression. Children playing with stacks of money, Germany, 1922. Three boys fishing for coins, New York, Great Depression, 1930. The crowd chilling at Woodstock, 1969. Back in 1968, Bob "Gibby" Gibson of the St. Louis Cardinals pitched 13 shutouts. Matt Dillon, 1980. Dad impresses daughter with skills in 1940s Melbourne. Red Army Guard on duty, USSR, 1925. A 1930s vision of the future. Barabara, Roof's poses. At a Southern California drag race in the early 70s. Anti-hippie protesters, 1960s. Tom Cruise in middle school, 1970s. Finnish 11-year-old Nestori Lindström, who ran away from his home during the Continuation War because he wanted to help on the Northern Front against the Soviets. Putin, as a teenager, 1960s. Robin Hilton, Wow's Johnny Carson, on The Tonight Show in 1974. Arnold Schwarzenegger standing in the middle of Wilt Chamberlain and Andre the Giant on the set of Conan the Destroyer in 1984. One of the world's first gym machines, designed by Dr. Gustav Zander, Stockholm, 1892. Berlin, at the end of World War II. Electric chair, 1908. An American soldier constantly carries his girlfriend's photo. General officer with 2 canaries, Nule, 1918. Bankrupt investor Walter Thornton attempts to sell his luxury Chrysler Imperial 75 Roadster for $100 on the streets of NYC, October 29, 1929. Members of the Runaways and David Lee Roth at an interview in a Pasadena radio station, 1978. John Lennon with Julian on his Honda Monkey bike, early 70s. First miniskirts come in fashion in Lithuania, 1965. Princess Elizabeth and Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, marriage photograph, 20th November, 1947. Marilyn Monroe, 1950s. World's greatest invention until color. Motorola, remote-controlled TV, 1962. Linda Carter's swimsuit. For Battle of the Network Stars, doesn't leave much to the imagination. Tubing on Salt River, Arizona, 1980. Children play Push the Peanut in King's Cross, 1938. With her husband at war, Mom works on the car, 1944. Mujahideen use air-filled leather bags to cross a river, 1980. Woodstock, 1969. Photos of PSA flight attendants from early 1970s. A coal miner's child in grade school, La Junior, Kentucky, 1946. The art of hitchhiking in the 1970s. Children playing, Ribera, Porto. We're saving the last dance for you. My grandfather and his brother-in-law, 1953. U.S. 4th Marine Division Cemetery, Iwo Jima, March 1945. Gary Anderson, the guy who, at age 23, designed the recycling logo for a contest in 1970. A photo of Central Park during the Great Depression, New York, 1933. Vice President Al Gore prepares to talk to White House staff in December 1998, after President Clinton had just been impeached. Aston Martin Lagonda dashboard, 1982. Miss Nevada, 1958. Dawn Wells with Mr. Blackwell at the Miss America pageant. Carrie Fisher and her stunt double relax on the set of Return of the Jedi, 80s. "100-year-old pictures show how amazing the traditional Rwandan hairstyle was. Mata Hari was an exotic dancer in 1906. James Dean and girlfriend Ursula Andress at a party in Los Angeles, 1955. John Lennon's psychedelic Rolls-Royce Phantom 5, and George Harrison's Mini Cooper S. The Beastie Boys chasing Madonna around the stage with squirt guns in 1985. Alfred Hitchcock's wife, Alma Reville, poses with a wax cast of her husband's head in the refrigerator, 1972. Two guards from Delhi Durbar with James Ricalton, an American photographer who visited India in 1903. On set of Jaws movie, an effectsman repairs the shark's teeth, 1974. Suzanne Summers, 1979. Bob Ross, who hosted the PBS show The Joy of Painting, was once a master sergeant in the Air Force. A family shows the damage dropped on Hiroshima did to them 2 years afterward in Tokyo, Japan in 1947. Father and son from the same German regiment read a letter from their respective wife and mother at the front, 1915. Miller massages Monroe's neck during The Misfits filming. A couple in a Model T Ford at Balanced Rock, Colorado, 1920s. Chief Dustmaker from the Ponca tribe in northern Nebraska, 1898. An enthusiastic man celebrates the release of Windows 95. Hoppers on stilts in Faversham, England, 1920. Jerry Lewis, Adam West, Dick Shawn, Connie Stevens, Cesar Romero, and Jane Wald on the set of Batman, 1966. Food rationing portions in Great Britain during World War II. Elton John visits 18-year-old AIDS patient Ryan White on his deathbed. (1937) Cadillac V16 Series 90 Cabriolet by Hartman. Japan's Emperor Hirohito inspects the Type 90 large air sound detector. Two boys engrossed in their comic books, outside on the street, 1952. Miami Beach, 1940s. Children view lingerie ads. Two men from the 363rd Field Artillery Battalion near Okinawa, June 10, 1945. Stephen Hawking and his wife, Jane Wilde, 1965. Anthony Bourdain preparing a meal in his New York City apartment, 1986. Blues legend Samuel John Lightnin' Hopkins, 1961. Natalie Wood, early 1960s. Philippe Petit walks a tightrope between the Twin Towers in 1974. Wendy's ad from 1980. Nicole Kidman and her very 1980s curls. Dean Martin spends his 50th birthday filming the Western Bandolero in 1967. Sophia Loren's Beautiful Green Eyes, 1960s. A U.S. Marine offers a cigarette to a buried Japanese soldier. Beastie Boys, 1980s. REO Speedwagon, 1979. Romantic French postcards from the early 20th century. New Year's Party in the USA, 1960s. Members of the 1930s Owls, a black women's softball team. An ironworker waves to his co-worker on the 88th ES, to his co-worker on the floor of the new Empire State Building, 1930. When Muhammad Ali saved a man from suicide, in 1981. In 1963, the Bronx Zoo had an exhibit, The Most Dangerous Animal in the World. It was a mirror. Sir Winston Churchill holding a Thompson Model 1928 during an inspection of the Home Guard near Hartlepool in 1940. UFO, British sci-fi series, 1970. Al Pacino as New York cop Frank Serpico in the 1973 film Serpico. Wilbur Wright lands glider in 1901 at Kitty Hawk. Can Trio relaxes at Open Air Salon, 1958. Express Granville, Paris, October 22, 1895. A German pilot falls from a burning plane, 1914. Maintenance workers conducting repairs on the Graf Zeppelin over the ocean during a transatlantic voyage, early 1930s. George Harrison and Patty Boyd visiting Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco for the Summer of Love in 1967. Black Sabbath original lineup in 1973. Talented cast of The Bob Newhart Show, 1972. Carrie Fisher, 1975. In 1923, Germany, marks were so worthless they were wallpaper. Girl in Japan, 1958. In 1961, Ham the Chimp endured 17G due to rocket malfunction. Cleaning rifling of 381mm gun barrel, Coventry Arsenal, 1914. Local businessman rents chairs for 10 cents in Constantinople, 1920. Child hung up on a clothing rope, Paris. Sexy Dimples creator, 1936. Joe Biden, 1961. Children enjoy playing with rope and lamppost. Picasso's self-portrait at different stages of his life. The $6 Million Man, The Secret of Bigfoot, 1976. Senate bathing beauty performers. Seaforth Highlanders rest in a trench with a dog, 1915. A Soldier and His Date, Boston, Massachusetts, circa 1940. Johnny Clem, a drummer boy, famously killed a Confederate colonel. Miss Kitty, Gunsmoke, Amanda. Clint Eastwood skateboarding in Rome, 1965. Circus strongman. Paul Ramos lifts son to feed giraffe, 1950s. Man experiences irony, 1966. Sybil Shepherd, 1972. Empire Strikes Back in London, 1980. Notre Dame, Paris, 1981. Puerto Rican Pride, 1978. A farm family gathers for supper, Claiborne County, 1940. From cultural shifts to political challenges, this decade shaped the future in ways we can still see today. Which photo caught your eye the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with friends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.